All right, broski. It's T-Man and I'm back, broski, on a Physionic. Yes, I've always wanted to make a video, I guess, on this guy. I did in the past one time. I actually like his channel. It's informative. He's a molecular biologist, I believe. He's got a very good background, scientific background. He's a pretty tall dude too, actually. Yeah, I think he's like, I don't know, 6'4", 6'5", or something. He's really tall. And he does do some lifting as well. He does lift weights. He's had some videos in the past. He's done some stuff, whatever. But yeah. Okay, let's just review this video.
I get hundreds of questions asked of me every.
It's eating to gain muscle. Eating to gain muscle. So eating, now that's what we're talking about. Minimize fat gain and reduce oxidative damage. These things are, now this is important. Eating to gain muscle. Finally, we get somebody intelligent out there in the scientific community. You understand me? Not the weightlifting bullshit community. Yes.
Single day, but every now and again I get a question that I especially enjoy because it's something that I've contemplated for literally years.
Yeah.
I received this comment under a video that I released about maybe 2 years ago, and the video discusses fasting and overeating and how they each impact our mitochondria. Anyway, the question was semi-related to the topic, but really touched on a more applicable aspect of muscle physiology. The comment coming from Dijek, excuse the pronunciation, thank you for your thoughtfulness, the study that you were able to link, and the general nature.
I must agree. Oh, somebody sent you that study. That's great. This is going to be interesting.
Nature of the question. Like I commented, I really enjoyed this one. So the comment asks about having an abundance of nutrients to build muscle with some more.
And that's where I've been advocating that. I say a high nutrient, high protein diet is extremely important to build muscle. If we were, like, you have to experiment with everything. If we were to cut out all this man-made slave diet food and we ate just animal products, okay, which is a high dense nutrient protein diet, what would you get if you were to work out in the gym? You people that love to chronically lift in the gym, that are chasing inflammatory responses, fake muscles, and gravitational loading and unloading. But let's listen to this video. It's not about me, it's about him.
Specifics on mitochondria, so we'll discuss that too.
Oh, mitochondria, that's another thing. The thing I learned about mitochondria, and this is, we'll review this, but I just want to add this. They find that animal fat, the energy, the mitochondria function much better on animal fat than it would on sugar. All right, so yeah, which is not your diet, your natural diet, but whatever. Okay, let's move on with this.
Jack mentioned this study that showed a significant difference in the ability to build muscle if you are consuming more food.
Hold on a second. Let's go back. What was that study? I didn't really catch that.
Significant difference in the ability to build muscle if you are consuming more food. Take aspect of muscle physiology.
I got to review this again. Wait.
Comment coming from Dijek, excuse the pronunciation. Thank you for your thoughtfulness, the study that you were able to link, and the general nature of the question. Like I commented, I really enjoyed this one. So the comment asks about having an abundance of nutrients to build muscle with some more specifics on mitochondria. So we'll discuss that too. So Dijek
He mentioned this study. It's called Effects of Different Dietary Energy Intake Following Resistance Training on Muscle Mass and Body Fat in Bodybuilders, a pilot study. Yeah, I find that nutrition is extremely important. And, you know, we're not all perfect. I had some things wrong. That's why I went to go learn from other people, and then I learned on my own, actually. Yeah.
This study that showed a significant difference in the ability to build muscle if you are consuming more food. Take this data, for example. So
I believe him, man. Yes, it can hinder you. The wrong food can hinder you. We're not herbivores. Eating a herbivore diet can definitely fuck you up.
Which which shows the amount of muscle gain following the same resistance training regimen, but consuming more food in one group versus another. Group 1 and Group 2 both gained muscle. However, Group 1, the group that consumed 35% more calorically dense foods, experienced more muscle gain, about double. Yes.
So why is that? Because you're not insulin resistant. Look, sugar and man-made foods make you insulin resistant, and a calorically high dense diet, protein diet, animal diet, doesn't have any interference in there. But again, protein synthesis needs to exceed that breakdown to build that mass. And I told you, it is extremely hard to do that. That's why I opt for myofibrillar growth. Damaging muscles periodically, they need to be unaccustomed to get this damage to come back, so I can get the progenitor to donate more extra nuclei to that domain to further that growth. It's complex, man. Bodybuilding is not as easy or straightforward as people think, and it could be very discomfortable and uncomfortable doing that for some people. Some people get addicted to it. I don't know. It depends. People love pain. Some people are addicted to pain. It's hard to say. It's hard to describe. But they definitely, how should I put it? They definitely disregard this DOMS as being something positive. They find it to be negative, and therefore they shun it. And then they're like, they don't build their muscles, and then they get an apoptosis. Now they've damaged it. They don't exceed this breakdown, try to repair and remodel it with proper food, and then you get an apoptosis. You actually lose muscle fibers doing that. So every time you get that, you just disregard it. You walk around, you don't eat, you don't care, you lose muscle. So you're not even not only you're not gaining mass, but you're actually destroying muscle fibers. You're getting weaker.
Protein was the same in both groups, since I know that's an incoming question. However, what you'll also notice is the fact that more body fat was gained in Group 1 as well.
Yeah.
So that
the gaining of that mass means that it's without gaining more myonuclei. In other words, you're building up this mass on the myofibrillar without gaining any more nuclei. Can you further it without nuclei? Getting more mass? Yeah, but it's really hard, and it's hard to maintain it, and it constantly wants to regress, go back to a homeostatic state. That is the problem with that. See what I mean? That's why these studies are all baloney. You opt for the one that is the most optimal, which is muscle damage, but you can't get damage because of the repeated bout effect phenomenon protecting muscle from a repeated bout of damage. So how do you get these muscle damage? How do you get that damage to come back? So that during hypertrophic process, the progenitor is no longer, the satellite cell is no longer donating any more extra nuclei to that domain to further any more growth of that domain. What do? You understand me? That's why I say nobody is ever eating that much protein to get that mass. And then now to maintain that mass, it needs to be net zero, okay? So it's really hard. I can't even describe it. So people ask me, how do I walk around looking like a bodybuilder and I never lift? How do you maintain that? Well, a lot of it is myofibrillar growth. I got more fibers and these nuclei, but I also maintain it with my diet, what I'm eating. You understand me? That's all. But it doesn't require that much maintenance, because the fiber, when you get a new fiber, it sizes up to its natural size. Your body just sees it as another fiber. So if it sees it as another fiber, it'll size it up to your natural level, even if you aren't particularly so-called maintaining a mass level. You understand me? It's complicated.
It raises this question: what is the optimal calorie surplus, food surplus, to maximize muscle growth, minimize fat gain, and from a health standpoint, minimize oxidative stress?
Well, that's the most important, to minimize oxidative stress. You don't want to turn on these aging genes, right? You know what I mean? You don't want to accelerate aging and everything else that comes along with it.
If you're confused about where oxidative stress came from, it's because of the video that Dijik commented on. In that video, I mentioned that if food intake exceeds the mitochondria's ability to generate cellular energy, known as ATP, then mitochondria generate more reactive oxygen species, which are damaging molecules that tear at the integrity of the cell, like.
And that's the reason why I don't exercise. People ask me, "We're trying to prevent me from exercising, T." I'm not preventing you from exercising. Go ahead. These people that chronically exercise are accelerating aging by doing that. This oxidative stress to the mitochondria, all the stuff that you're doing is just it's the wrong kind of damage to get something to regenerate. You're not regenerating. Let's just put it that way. Yeah, you're aging.
Muscle cells. As a matter of fact, I'll let my past me explain what's going on inside your mitochondria. Now, if supply is so great and demand is not great enough, so demand is small and supply is high, then you have a high degree of NADH, you have high amounts of FADH, and they go through the same process, right? Donating electrons, it's going through this electron transport chain. But the problem is that because you're getting so much pumping of hydrogen out, and you're not getting enough of this drive to generate ATP because you have enough ATP. You don't need more ATP. So you get a lot of protons that build up out here, but there's no drive through a metabolic demand right here through these reactions that would happen, enzymatic reactions and whatnot. So the protons are staying up here because there's only a small amount still coming through here to generate ATP relative to the amount of supply that there.
Yeah, but why is that happening?
There is. So as such, what happens is you have protons and electrons that start to leak. So instead of staying where they should.
Okay, now I understand. They're leaking, just like a leaky gut. That's a really bad thing, man. Okay, now I understand.
Could be going where they normally would be. For example, the electrons, instead of being pushed from one complex to another complex, they end up slipping, meaning that there's so much pressure building up, kind of, if you want to think about like chemical pressure, think of it like a hose almost, that the water is coming in this way and the opening is only so big, but the pressure keeps building on this side. Eventually, wherever there are weaknesses in these complexes, you're going to get slipping of these electrons. They're going to start bouncing all over the place instead of going to their respective spot, because the respective spot is taken by another electron, because there's no pulling, there's no release through the ATP synthase. So these electrons start to slip, kind of like a hose that has a weak point, and you start having a bit of water that starts poking out of the side, and then another leak coming out of another side. And it
okay, so how do we prevent this? All right.
Builds and builds and builds to the point where all these electrons are starting to freely be released from this electron transport chain, or not go to the electron.
How about, you want to know how to stop doing this? It's really easy. Stop exercising.
Transport chain, and starts generating reactive oxygen species. Essentially, if the cellular intake of nutrients is too high from overconsumption, that leads to overall fat gain, and the cell doesn't need to generate more ATP, so that's cellular energy, then the mitochondria generate ROS, or ROS molecules, which...
Reactive oxygen species, which is extremely bad. Yeah, man. I think, here's another thing, and I don't know, I'm pondering this. I can't be sure. Nobody can. I think this is a part of cellular damage over time, a buildup of cellular damage. It too equates to accelerated aging, and I think that this can cripple you over time. There's a crippling effect going on here. You understand me? I believe all these people, that these things happen to them, they become crippled over time. It cripples you. Yeah, age is a disease, really, because you're creating a disease out of something you're doing that is absolutely unnatural to be done to your body. Yeah, man.
Increase oxidative stress within the cells. Clearly, oxidative stress and mass damage to the cells is unhealthy. So that's the third component. Minimize.
That's why I do it periodically. I don't do it often, and then I focus on regenerating. My whole focus is to regenerate. Like that report that I brought out from the satellite cell, it says use it or lose it. It tells you there to mitigate myogenic decline and acquisition of senescent cells by periodically activating the satellite cell through muscle injury. And then you get some nascent muscle fiber, so forth and so on. The T cells come out and they remove the rest of these other, while they remove the dead muscle fibers or fiber, it replaces, it regenerates new muscle fibers and gives you some extra stuff, and it donates its nuclei to that domain, so forth and so on, and it will remove a lot of other things that are going on in your body, these senescent cells. So it's a kind of a helper. You don't even have to rely on all these other things like autophagy and weird stuff that people are doing out there, starvation diets. I don't know if he's ever read that report. See, is he into the satellite cell? He never talks about satellite cells. I did on my old channel before my channel got struck and I lost my old channel. That's all I ever did was talk a lot about satellite cells. I have all reports. I put up some now in my community section, but a lot of them that I had, there were so many of them on the satellite cell. It's very important. I told you when they discovered the satellite cell way back in the 60s. So it's really important when it comes to bodybuilding to understand how the satellite cell works. And it's also important when it comes to anti-aging. Now, I know he's doing a series on anti-aging. He may be watching my video, he may be listening, and he may not even give a shit about me. But that's okay, it doesn't matter. I'm interested to see what he's going to discover on his own. I already know what I've discovered. Will he discover it, though?
Oxidative stress. So we know that eating more than your body needs to maintain weight is imperative for optimal muscle growth. We see that evidenced in part by the study mentioned beforehand. Why? Because protein synthesis that occurs within the muscle cells, the myocytes, is dependent on ATP. It's dependent due to
First, numbers make it simple to demonstrate a point. Therefore, I'll start with the stock market. I can take it everywhere. If I can show that is
due to two reasons: tRNA amino acylation and guanosine triphosphate regeneration. Without going to too much molecular biology, when proteins are produced in your cells, like muscle cells, the cell is dependent on ribosomes, special protein factories that literally...
Yeah, I know that. Even your cells are made up of this cytoplasm. It's this jelly-like substance, and there's all these things in there. Okay. Yeah, this is just one faction of that cell. It's within the cell. This is cute. Protein synthesis. All right.
Stitch amino acids together into chains. The amino acids are supplied through a molecule known as transfer RNA, or tRNA. So transfer RNA are bound to amino acids, and that...
Sugar, I think it's multipolar, isn't it? It's a multipolar thing. I think it's positive, negative. I can't remember now, man. Yeah, that's unusual. Yeah.
Process requires ATP. Then the tRNA plus the attached amino acid are attached to by ribosomes, and the ribosome then attaches the amino acid to the protein chain.
I wonder if he knows about oxalates and what do they do? If you eat foods high with oxalate, what exactly do they do to the mitochondria and the cells in the muscles and just every other cell in your body? I wonder if he knows about that. He hasn't mentioned that. That's why there's so many things that are going on out there. People eating improper foods, not the proper human diet food. We're eating a slave food. That's another thing he hasn't mentioned. We eat slave food. We're not eating our proper diet out in nature. We're not following nature. We're so unattached with nature. We're in man's world and doing things in the man's world fakely, constantly. But like I said, you have to try to get more in touch with nature. If you go outside of nature, you run into all these problems. Yes, definitely.
Then the ribosome ejects the tRNA. Some of these processes are dependent on another energy molecule in the cell, not ATP, but GTP. And since ATP can be converted to GTP, they are dependent on one another. High levels of ATP allow protein synthesis a full pool of GTP. As a side note, I always imagine tRNA being kicked off the ribosome to sound kind of anticlimactic, like or something along those lines. Just imagine that sound occurring in your cells over and over. And just like the ejection of...
You guys got a great channel. Don't know why he just gained a little bit more subscribers. He's at 128. I'd always thought that he'd have been much bigger than this. Maybe at 500,000. I guess people just don't want to know the truth. They love people that fabricate fake things and confirm their fake beliefs. See, you people out there in the public, you want everybody to confirm your fake beliefs, the beliefs that have become you've become accustomed to, and so you want them confirmed. You understand me? You don't want to know the truth. That is the problem. That's why you are losing. Yeah.
With this tRNA out of the ribosome. Okay, maybe you can't relate. It doesn't matter. Be cool, Nick. Be cool. Anyway, all in all, protein synthesis is highly reliant on cellular energy, but if the cell is maxed out, then there is no use for more energy. Yet the cell is being gifted with an excess of nutrients, which is either stored, if it can, or sends into the mitochondrion for the generation of energy. It's here that there's this tug of war between supply and demand that occurs, leading electrons donated by the excess nutrients to generate reactive oxygen species and ultimately oxidative stress. So, where does that leave us on an answer? What's the sweet spot? The answer is, I don't know. Nor does any researcher, if I had to bet.
See, I told you, they don't know. They've done a study on all these things, and in the end of the study, we don't know how this works. That's what I try to explain to you about science. I said, and then they talk about all these things, and it does this, and then they say, we don't know how this works, because no human being does. No human being on this planet knows anything. You're born with instincts. You're not born with knowledge. So how the hell could you know how a body works if you've never created one? See what I mean?
Because it's not a topic of great investigation to help out bodybuilders be as optimal as possible. However, I can give you an educated guess. I think that the sweet spot is between 100 and 300 calories over your maintenance calories. Meaning, if you maintain your weight at 2,000 calories, you should be consuming 2,100 or 2,300 calories a day or somewhere in there.
That's for the average person out there, okay? And even that, I can't tell on your body size and type. How much more would you need? That's the average. Okay, average, all right.
This way, you minimize fat gain. A little is inevitable, unfortunately, yet also supply...
How can you get fat on a high nutrient protein diet, a carnivore diet, which is your natural diet? How could you possibly get fat off that? Unless your body, if there's cold weather out there, it may start storing fat because there's a reaction. The cold, the heat, yeah, it could cause a trigger in your body. So defense mechanisms, I call that.
Your cells with sufficient nutrients to maximize protein synthesis. This, of course, assumes that you are also resistance training effectively. And resistance training...
You definitely want to maximize growth, that's for sure. Everybody out there is trying, right?
Exercise as a whole has the added benefit of increasing our cellular antioxidant molecules like glutathione. So even if there's a small increase in oxidative stress due to the aforementioned mechanisms, your cells might be able to buffer it with a boost in antioxidant capacity. Additionally, consider that protein synthesis is...
Well, animal products have antioxidants in them. But you taking plant antioxidants don't work for you since they're protection for plants. So we want to eat that. We don't want to eat any unnatural foods anyways. These man-made engineered foods or fake man-made foods from these engineered foods, whatever. Man, animal products have antioxidants, so I believe they can be used for human. Yes, for humans, it works much better.
Ramped up with resistance training. So a good portion of that excess energy is then rerouted to the musculature for energy to propel the protein synthesis machinery, the ribosomes.
And I'm actually doing that now. I've never done that before, actually. I started going on a high carnivore diet, and as of the week before last, I took a whole bunch of time off. I had to recalibrate my body. I had to get everything like all adjusted. And so I've been lifting again. But I'm doing something periodically. I'm not coming in there consistently. I'm doing periodic. You understand? Because I'm trying to focus on getting more myofibrillar growth and the satellite cell to donate its nuclei to that domain to expand the satellite cell pool for further regenerative purposes. And I want more nuclei. That's the thing, because I'm trying to reverse aging. I'm trying to mitigate senescent or acquisition of senescent cells, and I'm trying to mitigate myogenic decline. So yeah, that is really my goal. If that is your goal, then you should focus on that. If all your goal is to get mass on the body, well, listen to Nick. Nick's smart. I agree with everything he says in this video. He's an intelligent dude.
Or new muscle proteins. So that's the answer and the mechanisms with a sprinkle of science. How about learning much more about muscle growth and body composition, though? Well, I've got you covered. Check out my linked video. It's a doozy.
Guy's a genius, man. I love him. I'll see you in the next video. Tell me what you think about that. Like, subscribe, support the channel. I'll see you in the next one, broski. Yes, Nick, a genius. Eating to gain muscle. Maximize fat gain and reduce oxidative stress. That's the whole point. See that? That would be optimal. You don't want to totally destroy yourself now, do you, on a herbivore diet? Fake, man-made diet, which doesn't belong in your body. See you later, man. There's consequences for everything in life.